Hello, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Kerr, back here with Alex Meyer, discussing our Oscar nomination predictions. We've already covered the main categories. Now we're about to get into the below-the-line categories. So there's a lot to start from, and I guess now, I guess a good place to start is, okay, I guess for starters, let's talk about Best Production Design. So, Alex, read off your predicted lineup.
All right. I have The Favorite, Black Panther, Mary Poppins Returns, First Man, and Roma.
Okay, I have those same exact 5 films getting, and although I do have Roma getting in above First Man, though, yeah, I get that. Well, I guess they are kind of interchangeable since First Man is the more obvious production design nominee, while Roma isn't as much, even though it is still a period piece.
hmm Well, I just have Roma down at the bottom just because I feel Academy voters might think it's more impressive to have to recreate 1960s NASA than a 1970s house.
Oh yeah. Plus, it's by Nathan. Plus, the production designer on First Man is Nathan Crowley, who's been nominated several times before, including his collaborations with Christopher Nolan.
hmm Plus, space movies always have a great track record of being nominated in this category
Oh
anyway.
yeah, and plus, didn't they also have to like create a set for the moon?
hmm
Yeah, so
Well, Well, I don't know how much of that was real and how much of that was CGI,
hmm
but well, but that doesn't matter in this case here.
yeah, so yeah, I mean,
But are
yeah.
your top three rankings the same, I presume?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Now on to best. Well, I mean, I guess I have Roma ranked a little higher because I'm just expecting it to have a strong showing on Oscar nomination morning. But again, we shall see. But then again, if they all get an A, no big loss. So now on to best costume design. My predicted lineup is The Favorite, Black Panther, Mary Poppins Returns, Mary Queen of Scots, and Bohemian Rhapsody.
All right. Well, I have the same top four, but I'm gonna go bold on my fifth prediction, and I have a feeling that because of the success of this film and the impact it's made, I have a feeling Oscar voters will want to give it recognition for at least something, and I think this will be the only category it does into. My fifth slot is Crazy Rich Asians.
Ooh, that's definitely possible. While the film is a contemporary film, still it does have. I haven't seen Crazy Rich Asians, but yeah, from what I see of it through pictures and footage, yeah, it looks look like a very contemporary film to stand out a little more in the costumes department.
I mean, it pretty much is lavish costumes, the movie, because pretty much all the events in this movie are high society parties, and there's a big wedding, and I mean the film lives up to its title. It is about, you know, Asians who are as they say in the film, crazy rich. These are like, these are like billionaire with a capital B
Hmm
rich people. And we've seen in the past films that feature a lot of like high-end designer gowns on display, like the kind you see at award shows, whether it be like Devil Wears Prada or La La Land, which got nominations in this category. This, I think, will follow in their path. And given Crazy Rich Asians' impact, both at the box office and in terms of Asian representation, being the first mainstream studio film with an Asian cast and mostly Asian cast in 25 years, and I have a feeling, given the fact that it wasn't necessarily considered the best film of the year by everyone else in terms like critics or the guilds, well, I guess the SAG awards to a certain extent, because it is an ensemble film. And
Oh yeah. Plus Warner Brothers has really been campaigning for that movie.
mhm, I mean, given the fact that it borrows a lot from like films like My Big Fat Greek Wedding and Great Gatsby in terms of plot, and I know some have criticized it for not being representative of Asians enough by focusing only on the really, really rich and not enough on like the middle class or the poor. That could probably also hinder it in the top categories, but I think at least for this, there's like so much costumes on display. I'm like, how can you not nominate it?
Well, yeah, though I will say, so far, Crazy Rich Asians only got one costume design nomination, which was from the Costume Designers Guild.
but that's still a good sign because these are most of the same people who will be
Well,
nominating
yes,
this
it is.
category at the
Yes, it is.
Oscars.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
so it's definitely possible.
plus it kind of represents, I think, a nice break away from the traditional period costumes because we always seem to have at least one costume nominee that is either period but not necessarily like royalty period, kind
Like
of like with
Phantom Thread last year.
or with the Revenant being more of a, frontier costumes.
Yeah, and
And
of
I guess you
course,
got
I'm
you kind
sorry.
of got that with Black Panther because while it is about royalty, it very much is influenced by like African tribal designs rather than the big European style we see in The Favorite and Mary Queen of Scots. plus, with plus, and then also if a film is often set in like a post-apocalyptic future like Mad Max Fury Road, we see that get recognized as well.
Well, yeah. Mitch, I'm still so surprised that that film even got nominated for costume design.
I can kind of see why. I don't think it should have won though. My pick to win that year was personally Cinderella.
Well, yeah, but of course that's a whole nother conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but I just think, I mean, possibly Bohemian Rhapsody could get in based on its doing much better with the industry than critics, but
yeah, plus it's gotten into costume design at BAFTA, CD, Costume Designers Guild, and Critics' Choice.
yeah, but I think in this case we could kind of see with Bohemian Rhapsody what we saw with Nocturnal Animals, where it maybe got a lot of love on the critics side, and with foreign award shows like Golden Globes and BAFTAs, it will probably underwhelm on the American side, I think.
Well,
I
let's
mean,
see.
it
I
did,
mean, dig in for ensemble at SAG.
yes, but I think with that and Rami Malek, people were expecting that, whereas like with,
Well, no, I don't know how many people were expecting Bohemian Rhapsody to get in for ensemble. Rami Malek was definitely more likely.
well, I meant Rami Malek. Um, but I just think with Bohemian Rhapsody, I think Queen, it's been big in they've been a big band in America, sure, but they've always been most popular in their native Britain more than anything else. So I think for them, it's a way to recognize homegrown heroes,
Hmm.
even though Freddie Mercury is being played by an American and not a Brit,
Hmm.
quite ironically. But I think with Bohemian Rhapsody, the costumes they're only well, I guess in their regular clothes is to a certain extent, yes, but I think we only really see that with the stage costumes, and I think with the costume design nominees, I think the costumes really have to take front and center in the focus of the movie, which is partly why I think Crazy Rich Asians has a slightly better chance than Bohemian Rhapsody to get in because that film is filled with so many designer clothes that you can't look away from it.
Well, we shall see what happens. So now on to best cinematography, and I believe it is your turn.
Yes, and I have Roma, First Man, The Favorite, A Star Is Born, and If Beale Street Could Talk.
Okay, I have the same top four, except I actually have Cold War getting into the fifth spot.
I mean, it's possible, but I think that with Roma being the front runner here not only to win, but in Best Foreign Language Film, I think voters might be like, okay, we don't need more than one black and white film nominated here.
Black and white foreign film.
Well, just or black and white film in general, because generally, like with If Beale Street Could Talk, I think that has a stronger chance of getting in because if you watch that movie and really look at the color palette they really like to use these very bold, bright colors that, kind of pop out on the screen, which kind of serve as a nice contrast to a film like Roma, which is beautiful in its in being black and white, but it's very stark in the tones that it uses. I noticed that the cinematography contenders often like to be very contrasting. You have the stark dark look and the bold bright look. And given that I think If Beale Street Could Talk will do well in some of the other categories, and we have seen the same cinematographer get nominated for Moonlight for
Yeah,
using very similar uh, camera angles and color palettes, I don't see how they'll not nominate him again because we know if we look at specific individuals throughout Academy history, if they like their work, they really, really like their work. Like Roger Deakins and Robert Richardson, Emmanuel Lubezki. I mean, those are like
and
they're
Janusz
like
Kaminski.
They're like the Meryl Streep or Jack Nicholson of cinematographers,
Hmm.
like almost always getting nominated.
Yes, although with Beale Street, if Beale Street could talk, that only got one major cinematography nomination, which was Critics' Choice. It didn't get in at BAFTA. It did not get in at ASC. So, could you see that hurting it?
Possibly, but given the fact that many critics and audience members have raved about how the cinematography is used in this movie, because this movie is like it's traditional story combined with like voiceover narration, even they incorporate archived documentary photographs to kind of help tell the story. If you don't have great cinematography to hold all that together, it's gonna fall apart. And this is kind of where Barry Jenkins uses. I like to consider Barry Jenkins a mix of Martin Scorsese and Terrence Malick. This is where this is where it seems to me his Terrence Malick influence comes into play, because whether you love or hate Terrence Malick, his films are almost always praised for how the cinematography is utilized. And I think he's clearly taken a influence from Malick's past films, which often incorporates voiceovers and things like that and random images, but somehow streams it all together coherently, or at least for me it does.
Hmm. Well,
So
yes, and yeah, I'm looking up, and let's not forget that the cinematographer behind Cold War is the same cinematographer who was nominated a few years ago for Ida.
yes, that's true, but I just with Cold War, I mean, BAFTA and Oscars only have about 600 voters that vote for both awards. And while
Well,
I don't have the exact list, I'm going to assume that at least half of them are probably actors. There's probably only a very small handful of cinematographers who can vote for both of those.
yeah, but Cold War also did get in at ASC, so BAFTA's not the only award backing it up.
Yeah, that's true, but with Cold War, I just don't really think it's going to get in much beyond Best Foreign Language Film, because I think Roma's just kind of taken up all the spotlight for it, that like no other film really stands a chance against it in any category.
Well, I'll see. But so I guess now onto best film editing. Okay, the
And
lineup.
I
It's
believe
my
it's your
turn.
turn.
Yes, and the lineup I have predicted. The predicted lineup I have is First Man, A Star Is Born, Roma, The Favorite, and Black Klansman.
I have the same five, but a slightly different order. I have First Man in first, then I have Roma in second place, then A Star Is Born, then The Favorite, and then Black Klansman.
Okay, okay. I mean, I could definitely understand having Roma ranked slightly higher up, but then again, I'm not sure if it can actually win, given that, well, people have, people have called the film a slow burn, so I'm not sure. So it doesn't paper doesn't look like an obvious editing winner.
But if you can make a slow burn film watchable and not feel bored while watching it, that has to count for something.
Well, yeah. Like if it was only editors voting on the winners, then yeah, possible. But since you have the entire Academy voting on the winners, well, that's a completely different story. But of course, we're not even talking about the winners yet.
No, and I don't think Roma's going to win this category, but I do think voters, well, I don't know how many voters will vote for it in the final round, but I think given that it's a lock for a best picture nomination and it's one of the top two right now considered to win, it would seem kind of silly not to give it an editing nomination.
Well, I'm not saying it's not getting in for editing. No, I definitely think it's getting in for editing.
Yeah,
Okay,
I just
so now on to a best sound editing, shall we?
all right. And yeah, it's my turn, and I have First Man, Black Panther, A Quiet Place, A Star Is Born, and Roma.
Okay, I have four of those getting in, and well, yeah, but not Black Panther, which it was interesting. I had it getting into both sound categories for a while, but I'm also not sure because today only one Marvel Studios film got in to one of the sound categories, which was the very first Iron Man film, and while I can definitely see Black Panther making the cut this time, well, I mean, based on how well it could do in below the line categories, but Well, my lineup right now is First Man, A Quiet Place, Roma, Stars Born, and Ready Player One.
Mm. Well, I think with Black Panther, even though I haven't seen the film, I think it stands a better chance here because I know with any Marvel movie there's fight scenes, and I think maybe that can help put it over the edge because I think fight scenes might stand out more to a sound editor than like say being in a video game world.
Well, still, you have to keep in mind that with the sound designers branch of the Academy voting on the sound nominations, they're more familiar with all of the work that goes into building sounds for certain movies like Roma.
Yeah. Well, but I think with well, in the case of like with Roma, that I think it's going to get the sound nomination here because you have scenes where there's rioting in the streets and things like that, which were based on real events. So having to recreate that and make sure it's faithful is not an easy thing to do.
Hmm.
Plus, we have seen films that look like they wouldn't be contenders for this category still get in anyway in the
Yeah, like
past.
Birdman.
Yeah. So, and then with sound mixing,
Oh, wait. I mean, then again, in fact, I guess to clarify what the differences between sound editing and sound mixing is, depending on who's watching this and is even familiar with, well, sound editing is the creation of the sound effects, and while sound mixing is pretty much blending all the sound effects seamlessly within the images you see on screen.
yeah, which is partly why I think Black Panther has a chance of getting in here because when you have like hand to hand combat, the actors obviously aren't punching each other literally or kicking each other, and that's often where editing comes in, where it makes it look like they do with film editing. But you need sound editing to make a punch or a kick sound like it really is happening and that they really have been physically hit by the other person.
Yes, but but all Marvel movies have fight scenes in them, and
But yeah, but remember, Black Panther is poised to become like the film that's finally going to break the ceiling. And I
well,
just have a
we shall see.
we've seen that we saw The Dark Knight get nominated and win the sound editing category, and that you could say is technically a comic book slash superhero film, even
Well,
though
yes, but that more reinvented the genre thanks to the genius of Christopher Nolan.
right. But I've heard some people like I've also heard people literally say Black Panther is Marvel's The Dark Knight.
Having watched the film, I'm not sure if I'd say that. It does it to me because what the Dark Knight, what Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy did was they stripped away all the cliches and tropes that superhero movies usually come with, and he really approached them more as crime thrillers.
Yeah. And while I've heard Black Panther is still very much in many ways a Marvel movie, I've also heard people say it takes away some of the goofiness and cheesiness of past Marvel movies and like gives like its villain a real serious motivation and
Well, I
and
can
portrays more realistic world issues than previous Marvel films.
yeah, I guess that I can definitely see.
And
So
given the um yeah, so then for sound mixing, I believe it's your turn now.
yes, the not predicted lineup I have is First Man, A Star Is Born, A Quiet Place, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Roma.
All right. Well, I have sort of a similar lineup. I have A Star Is Born, First Man, Black Panther, A Quiet Place, and Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay, makes sense.
Bohemian Rhapsody, I think, will get in specifically for the Live Aid segment alone.
Oh yeah, that was definitely I think was the best part of the entire movie. Well,
And it was the
along with
one
Rami
and
Malek's
it was the one
performance.
aspect of the film that almost every critic, regardless of whether they loved or hated the movie as a whole, could give praise to.
Hmm. Yes, and again, I guess I'm. Oh, I mean, again, I guess I have Roma getting in based on how well it could potentially do. Plus, one of the sound mixers, at least one of the sound mixers, is a previous Oscar winner, I believe, Skip Levsey.
Hmm. All right. And then uh,
And
what category is next?
best original score. So I believe
All
it's
right.
your turn.
Yep. My rankings are First Man, If Beale Street Could Talk, Black Panther, Mary Poppins Returns, and Isle of Dogs.
Okay. I have a slightly different rankings. Okay, what I have is First Man, for If Bill Street Could Talk, Isle of Dogs, Black Panther, and Black Klansman.
Hmm. Well, Black Klansman would probably be my place choice if we could give it a sixth place choice. But I just think all the others my top three I think are locks. I'd be shocked if any of those three didn't get nominated. Um, but then Mary Poppins Returns. Uh, Many critics and audiences agreed that the score was at least nice, and I really liked it. Not as good as the iconic Sherman Brothers score, but this is done by five-time Oscar nominee Mark Shaman, and
Well,
he hasn't had a nomination in nearly 20 years. So I could
which is what I
see.
was going to bring up. Like, we have seen instances where Academy members they kind of feel done with you, like Tom Hanks, for example. I mean, we'll see if his look will change next year with the Mister Rogers biopic, but still, again, Mark Shaman hasn't been nominated since the South Park movie back in 1999, and he and Scott Wittman couldn't even get in for any of the two new songs they wrote for their Hairspray movie in 2007.
Yeah, well, that film just kind of underperformed in general, at least with the guild, with most of the previous guilds,
Well,
except
yeah,
for Golden Globes and SAG.
well, yes, and well, yeah. Plus, that was also one of the last years where you were allowed to submit more than two nominees. Like Enchanted took out most of that category.
Yeah, if they had like the two songs per film rule, I think Hairspray probably could have gotten at least one nomination there.
Well, yeah, maybe.
So, so I think this could kind of be a way to make up for that, I guess maybe. Plus, I mean, the
Or
film,
a welcome back nomination.
yes, exactly. Plus, given that the film, well, I know it has its detractors, it's done a lot better than probably most people were fearing because, it could have been an epic disaster, both critically and commercially, but so far, it's done relatively well. And then Isle of Dogs, I have simply because it's Alexander Desplat. He pretty much is the new John Williams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who gets in almost every time he does a movie, and he's already a two-time winner by now.
And clearly, the Academy loves his work with Wes Anderson because they gave him his first Oscar win for Grand Budapest Hotel, and he got nominated for Wes Anderson's other animated film, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Uh-huh, yeah. So,
Plus, the music in Isle of Dogs is pretty much its own character.
mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
mean, especially when you watch the elaborate opening credits sequence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I have Black Klansman getting in. I guess maybe I mean if it gets in here, it could be a sign of how strong the film is. Like we saw Three Billboards last year getting into score.
Yeah, it's possible. Although with Black Klansman, I think a lot of people more focused on the songs from the soundtrack rather than the original score itself.
That's true.
All right, so now for best original song, this shall be interesting.
Okay, and it's my turn, right?
Yes.
Okay, the predicted lineup I have is "Shallow" from A Star Is Born, "All the Stars" from Black Panther, "I'll Fight" from RBG, "Girl in the Movies" from Dumplin', and "Revelation" from Boy Erased.
All right, well, I have the same top three, but my fourth spot I have Trip a Little Light Fantastic from Mary Poppins Returns, and then I have Girl in the Movies from Dumplin' in fifth.
Oh, okay. Well, I do not have Mary Poppins getting into this category for not only the reasons I just mentioned about Mark Shaman, but I also think with two songs in contention for Mary Poppins, like "Place Where Lost Things Go" and "Triple O Light Fantastic," well, they could cancel each other out, which might have been a reason why it did not show up in the Best Original Song category at the Golden Globes.
Yeah, but tell that to La La Land.
Well, 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 yes, but then again, the Hollywood Foreign Press might have been more head over heels for that movie than Mary Poppins.
Yeah, but I just think given that the film has been this the success that's so far, I just have a feeling they'll want to recognize it for at least one of the songs, and this seems like the best one to do because it's a more elaborate number with a lot more people involved, whereas the other possible contender, the place where lost things go, that's just basically a lullaby, not really enough material for like a full nomination, I think, which is why I'm not predicting both of them like some people are. But I do think going to go with the at least Triple Little Light Fantastic because it's a kind of elaborate number that, and it kind of they somehow managed to incorporate a slightly hip hop style of Lin Manuel Miranda in there. Normally, you would think that couldn't work for a movie like this, but somehow it does. And but then I have Girl in the Movies in the last place because while I haven't seen Dumplin' yet, I know it's on Netflix. I do know that the Academy likes to go with legendary, acclaimed songwriters and performers like Dolly Parton.
Yeah,
And
who's
this,
been nominated twice before.
right, I was just about to say that. Plus, the Academy does know her work with her nominations from 9 to 5 and Transamerica. And well, I could see possibly Revelation, maybe. I was trying to guess between that and Girl in the Movies for my fifth slot, but I think that Revelation might not get in just because it's a good song, but it's okay, I guess. But listening to it, it's sung kind of rather robotically. Plus, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't really think it. I think it's just yeah. I mean, it's a good song, I guess, in the moment, but I don't really think it stays with you after you hear it. Like I barely remember it now after watching the movie back in November.
Hmm. Well, we shall see. I mean, plus, I think this is the Boy Erased best chance at a nomination.
Yeah. Well, beyond the Golden Globes, Boy Erased hasn't gotten anywhere at all. Well, except for Nicole Kidman at the Critics' Choice, but hasn't gotten it nominated anywhere else. And I know Revelation didn't get nominated at the Critics' Choice either. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, we shall see. So, I guess now on to best visual effects.
Wait, I don't. Did we do Best Film Editing?
Yes, we did.
Oh, okay. For a sec, I thought we missed that. I couldn't remember.
Well, yeah, you remember I had Roma ranks lower than you in that category.
Oh, yes, yes. All right. And yes, and I believe it's my turn now.
Okay, go ahead.
My rankings are Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ready Player One, First Man, and Mary Poppins Returns.
Okay, well, my rankings are different right now. I mean, then again, I could just see, well, at least in terms of nominations, okay, I do have Avengers Infinity War in first place, though, well, of course, we'll see how nominations turn out. Because if that ends up being the only nomination and the other film has more nominations, well, I might not be as tempted to predict it. But in any case, yeah, my overall rankings are Avengers Infinity War, First Man, Black Panther, Ready Player One, and Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I'm going with Mary Poppins just because of the fact that it's a little bit different than the other contenders, in which it has to incorporate 2D animation like the original. Plus, while box office doesn't always necessarily affect nominations, I could see the fact that Solo: A Star Wars Story is considered disappointing by Star Wars box office standards, possibly a reason why it might not get nominated here. And there are many people who felt the film didn't even need to exist in the first place. Because I've heard many people call it like the most unnecessary Star Wars film ever. So I could see if some Academy members feel that way about it, I could see them not nominating it here.
Well, we shall see, but well, I'm looking up the history of Star Wars movies, and has there ever been a Star Wars film that did not get in for visual effects?
Yes, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I kind of thought so. That's the only Star Wars film that did not get in for visual effects. Its only nomination was for makeup.
Hmm. So yeah, I mean, I could very well see just due to the overall, I mean, well, critics generally like Solo the Star Wars story for the most part. I could see the overall muted fan response and kind of lack of other industry response as well, causing it to not to be snubbed here, which would make it
Well,
the very first Star Wars film ever to get us to not get at least one Oscar nomination.
Yeah. Well, and I did notice that Disney did not. If you go to Disney's for your consideration campaign, they are not running an awards campaign for Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Well, that's probably that's probably an even bigger sign that it's going to get snubbed here.
Oh yeah, even though it did make the Academy shortlist.
Yes, but I guess shortlist itself is only like 5 of them are automatically going to get left out.
Yeah. So I guess now on to best makeup and hairstyling. So, and is it your turn or my turn?
I think it's yours.
Okay, so the predicted lineup of three, yeah, we're still on three, but hey, I started a petition to hopefully get the Academy to expand the numbers to five, but of course, that's a whole nother conversation. In any case, my predicted lineup is Vice, Black Panther, and Mary Queen of Scots.
All right. Well, mine are Vice, Mary Queen of Scots, and I'm going to throw a limb out for this one, but I think it might be that surprise nominee, Suspiria.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I remember Daniel Montgomery wrote an article of how so many of the past makeup and hairstyling winners transformed actress Tilda Swinton into a completely different character.
Well, plus it's prosthetics being applied to someone to make them look much older, which is exactly what they do to Tilda Swinton. They not only make her older, they make her a man.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah.
So not only aging but reversing genders here. That's quite something.
Hmm.
And I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
even though response to Suspiria was very mixed, with some people calling it a masterpiece and others calling it pretentious garbage, one thing most people have praised is the makeup used, particularly on Tilda Swinton, and not just her as the old man, but also this witch character. Not well, because she has three characters. She has the dance teacher, who yes is a witch, but then she has the old man, and then she has the mother witch as well, which we don't see till the very end of the movie.
Hmm. Uh-huh. And
So,
well, yes, and in fact, I will say for a while I had a Bohemian Rhapsody taking the third slot. But after watching Black Panther last night, I was like, why am I not predicting this for makeup and hairstyling nomination? So I literally switched it out.
hmm, yeah,
So I guess it's something you'd be predicting if there were five slots, as there should be.
yeah, I would.
Hmm. Yeah, so I guess it should be interesting, and I guess Stan and Ollie could also be a dark horse. They got in at the Makeup Guild and Hairstyling Guild Award as well as BAFTA.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I guess if I had to pick, if they did allow us to predict two more, I probably would put those two in the bottom two,
Hmm. Yeah, so we shall.
as well as the favorite, which if it were still considered eligible here, because how that didn't get shortlisted, I'll never understand.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of. Yeah, we've seen a lot of interesting films. Well, we've seen a lot of films that were very interesting left off of the makeup and hairstyling shortlist, like Jackie and the Danish Girl, which on paper look like obvious makeup nominees or even winners.
Or The Shape of Water.
Oh yeah, that too.
Because I mean, it wasn't all necessarily. I mean, I know Doug Jones did do motion capture, but he also did use that actual suit, from what I understand, and from behind the scenes photos I've seen.
Hmm. Yeah. So, in any case, I guess that just about does it for the below the line categories, and we'll be back soon. Not right away because I'm actually gonna have to leave real soon. But hey, we'll be back tomorrow to discuss our predictions for the remaining six categories.